Thanks for buying my Gantry lighting kit. Should fit most Ender 3 CR10s. In fact, it should fit any printer that's got this kind of grooved, if you like, grooved frame design, what we call T-slot extrusion. So anyway, what you're going to need to install it, get the Allen keys that came with your printer. If you've got a couple of spare cable ties, they also come with the Ender there handy as well. Decent Phillips screwdriver will be useful, much better than the one that comes with it. In the kit you're going to get, I printed these in grey to make them stand out a bit better on the camera, but you'll get 3 bits of plastic. Note that they're marked RH for right hand. You've got a left hand piece, LH, and another right hand piece. This will all make sense in a minute. And then obviously you've got the LED strip with the fork connectors on it. Pay attention that you've got these little clips as well. They'll need to be further down. It should intentionally have a little bend in it like this, so don't unfold that, and please don't peel off the sticky back. That needs to stay in place. Okay, first thing you want to do, well, firstly I'm going to show you on this video how to install it on an Ender 3 V2. On the V2 the power supply is in the bottom under here. I'll also show you on a V1. Now the V1's a lot friendlier, the power supply is actually on the side. So I won't open up the power supply, I'll just tell you how to take it off for this one, but I'll show you the whole shebang for that guy there. Okay, first thing you want to do with the printer, go into your settings menu, so just go to prepare, and you want to go down to move Z, and then you probably can't see now if I zoom in a little bit, take it up to maybe, I don't know, 100 or so. It takes quite a few turns. Take it out to, I don't know, about 120, that'll do. Okay, thereabouts. Alright, press enter, that'll move the print head up. Okay, I'm just going to let that do its thing and pause the video. Okay, when it's at the right height, we're going to have to turn the printer on its side to get to the power supply. So if you've got anything like this set up, take those off, take your spool off as well. And at this point you can turn off and unplug your printer. Very important you do that because we're going to be accessing the bit where mains electricity is. Okay, so turn off, unplug, and now what you're going to do is turn your printer over onto its side, like so, and just rest it on the stepper motor down here, and you're going to go find some books or something just to prop this bit up. It'll make access a bit easier. Okay, so I'll just do that now. Okay, so I turned the printer on its side and propped it up. That's important so you can get to the screws properly. You'll notice on yours, if you haven't opened it before, there'll be a cable tie where my finger is. You'll need to snip that with the side cutters and then take those cables out and just tuck them out of the way. You've then got 1, 2, 3, 4 Phillips screws to undo, so go ahead and take those guys out. Okay, when you're taking the screws out, the power supply just kind of pulls forwards. Just kind of take that cable, tuck it underneath, and you should be able to get enough of the power supply out. Don't pull it too hard because there's cables going in the back and the front. Right, you can just about make out on the camera you've got 1, 2 Allen head bolts to undo here, which I believe, not that it helps, it's that size Allen key. And then using the second smallest Allen key, you've also got 1 bolt here. So it's 1, 2, 3. Take those guys out, and then this whole tray will slide down and off. So I'll just do that for you quickly. Okay, so taking the cover off, just put that to one side, don't lose your bolts. Now taking the loose end of your cable, once you've unwrapped it, first thing I'll do, and apologise for the camera work, take those little clips and slide them right down the other end, because they're going to go up the top end. And taking your cable, you'll see on the side of the power supply here, where my finger is, there's a hole. We're going to thread those cables through that hole and then gather them again out of this end. So I'm just going to do that because I can't do it one-handed. Okay. Once you've threaded your cables through like so, you'll notice you've got a red fork and a black fork. Now on our connectors, you'll see we've got plus V, and that's these 3 screw terminals here. We've got minus V, which is those 3, 1, 2, 3. And do not go anywhere near these guys here. That's earth, neutral and live. That's where your mains power comes in. We're going to be putting the red wire on one of the spare plus V terminals, and we're going to be putting the black wire on one of the minus V terminals, so either of those two. Depending on your printer, if you've got a CR10 or some other copy model, quite often some of these ports aren't free, but it's fine to double up. So for instance, where I've already got a red wire going to this plus V, I could undo it and actually slide 2 forks underneath it, and that would be fine. It's just very important, red goes on plus V, black goes on -V. If you get them the wrong way round, it won't cause any damage, just the LEDs won't work because they only have one way round of allowing current through them. Right, these are very easy to do. You simply put the Phillips screwdriver in, undo it, don't undo it all the way, maybe a couple of turns, slide the fork connector underneath. I'll see if I can lift it up a little bit better to show you. So there's like a metal plate under there, slide the fork connector underneath it, and then just tighten it back down. Okay, make sure it's not overly tight, but tight enough that it's not going to come out when you pull on it. Do the same with the black cable. Make sure it's in the -V connection. Okay, tighten it back down. Good. This is tricky trying to do it in front of the camera. Okay, I'm just going to tighten this one because I loosened it earlier. Right, and while you're in it, it's always good practice. Just give all these cables a little wobble and check none of them are loose, including your mains cables. Obviously, you've unplugged your printer at this point, so there's no danger of electrocution. Once you've done that, pull out any slack from the cable, which I'm just going to do here. So your cable's tucked inside like it is there, and then you're going to restore this case. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay, fab. Right, now, if I take the camera back a step as well. Okay, just watch out for, there's a little metal clip up there. You'll see at the top right. The case kind of slides under it like that, then goes back in. Then put your littlest Allen key that you took out back in that hole and put the other two back on. I'm not going to bore you with doing up some bolts, so I'm just going to do that and then come back again. Okay, so once you put the Allen keys back on, just tucking these cables down out of the way, they kind of sort of come round and like that. Push this back into place, make sure it goes past the two rubber feet. Okay, and it sits in like that. My advice is to put the screws in loose at first and make sure they're in the holes and do them finger tight. So just put them in a couple of turns to stop them falling out, and only when you've got all four in place, because it takes a little bit of wiggling sometimes to get them lined back up. But when you've got all four in place, then tighten them down fully. Okay. Right. Okay, take your cables, slip them back into that groove, and if you've got a cable tie spare, hopefully it came with some, if not they're cheap enough, thread it back through that little hole there and zip tie them back down. To be honest though, they stay in place, so I wouldn't worry too much. Okay, I'm going to show you very quickly how to access the power supply on an end of V1, so those of you who don't have the V1 you can move on. This is my V1. I've already moved the platform up about 70mm, and you need to do that to expose this screw here, 1, and this screw here, 2. Undo those 2 screws and the entire power supply will just come loose, and you can rest it on the bed. And then if I just turn it around slightly, you'll see we've got, I have to angle it up for you, there's a screw here and a screw here, and also 360 degrees, I'll just show you around the back. There you go, there's a screw there. So 1, 2, 3. Undo those 3 bolts, this black plastic cover will come down, and then it will expose the same insides of the power supply that I just showed you for the V2 model. And in exactly the same way, you connect the red fork to the +V connector and the black fork to the -V connector. The only difference with the end of V1 is you'll run your cable underneath the printer. So it kind of comes out at the back of the plastic where my finger is there, and just run it underneath here. You'll see kind of like I've got this version that I've very badly put on at the moment. Okay, just make sure it goes underneath your bed cable. But apart from that, the rest of the install will be exactly the same as the back of this V2 that I'm about to do. Right, with your V2, now's a good time that you could actually test you've done it correctly. So as long as everything's screwed back in tight, plug your power supply in, plug your printer in and turn it on, and if you've done it right, the LED strips will light up. Okay, that's just a test before you go too far. If they turn on, unplug it again. Obviously it's much safer to install them while they're switched off. So I'm going to do that and then turn the printer upright again and look at it from the back. Right, so looking at the printer from the back now, Obviously this is your cable that you've just plugged in. If you've got your cable ties, my advice would be ignore the heated bed loom, that's the skinnier one. You could cable tie it to the main loom. If you're feeling cheap, you could just wrap it around a couple of times to hold it in place. It's down to you. Cable ties are neater. I'm not going to bother with either, just in case I need to re-record this video. But once you've done that, concentrating on this back part of the printer, and this is again why I printed this version in grey to show you. We've got our two clips. So we've got one marked LH for left hand and one marked RH for right hand. You'll see there's a little prong in the back, and that's designed to go into the slot like that and turn a quarter turn clockwise. So we're going to put the left hand one in the slot, keeping it pressed in, and just twist. Okay, now what you want to do is try and wiggle it or slide it as best you can over to the left. Do the same with the right hand guy, twist it, and again try and wiggle the right one over there as best you can. Now I'm going to show you this with a different clip. So if I pick a right hand one, hopefully you can see that on the camera. Hopefully you guys saw what I did there. Didn't actually check, so it was just put in and twist, put in and twist. You'll notice this has got two clips on it. There's one on the back that's going to attach to the third piece of plastic, and on the front side is a wider clip with a groove in it. What you're trying to do is so starting with the right hand clip, you're going to put it into here like this, but while it's on the printer, okay? So I'm just going to slide it in, and you'll see the little, it looks like that on the front side, okay? But we're going to try and do that while it's on the printer here, okay? You could, I suppose you could put it in first and then click and twist it, whatever works. That might actually be easier. So I'm gonna do that, sorry. It's been a long day. Okay, so take that, feed it in. Okay, ride it up all the way to the hilt, put that in there, twist it, and then push it right up into the corner, okay? Right, take that, and then there's another groove on the front of this, and that obviously slides into that groove. It will stick out a little bit. One thing I'd say, please don't cut off that LED on the end, as tempting as it might be for the aesthetics. If you cut that off, then all three of those or four of those LEDs will go out. It's just the way they're wired, so there we go, okay? The reason I didn't make it longer, by the way, weirdly, although they're the same printer, the gap between the two brackets here on the end of V1 is about 10 millimeters longer than it is on the V2. Obviously I wanted to maximise the amount of lighting you could fit in there, so there's no easy quick way of doing it. Right, the next bit's fairly straightforward. It's going to go this way round with right hand and this little lumpy bit pointing to the right. I would advise sliding this clip in. They will sort of pop in, but slide that one in, and then this one on the left, you want to kind of adjust the gap. So if it needs wiggling a little bit to bring it a bit closer, you want to wiggle it so that there's the exact same gap between them. Now this should just pop in like that. This bit's a little bit trickier to see, and you're just going to have to trust me on it. I've designed this bit to have such a tolerance that you can literally just pop the LEDs in. You can probably hear them crunching, like so. So give them a good crunch in. They will pop into the holder, and that will now hold that perfectly rigid. And that's it. That's pretty much done. Well, that is done. Apart from one thing that I've forgotten, you've got these two little cable clips. So, and there's some strain relief actually. So, sorry, I'll just zoom in again and show you that bit. Okay. So strain relief is designed that not this cable will flex much, but we obviously don't want it to bend back and forth any more than it needs to. So we're going to tuck it. There's a little groove in the back side of this. I'll show you here on a separate one. Hopefully you can see it. The idea is the cable's going to push into that groove and turn round. It's fairly straightforward to do, so you just sort of pop it in with your fingernails and give it a little bit of a twist with your fingers. There we go. That'll just hold it. What I would then do is take these two little plug things, and they are designed to clip onto your Bowden tube, whatever you want to call it, and just one approximately there, and another one for good measure approximately there. Okay, that, because this all moves as an assembly now, that is really good strain relief, so there's no chance those cables are going to fray. All that remains for you to do, if I zoom out, if you haven't already, just tidy your cable run up by cable tying it or wrapping it round to this loom. Okay, And if you've got some slack, you can just shove it into that hole there, out the way, and Bob's your uncle. All done. Okay, turn it round, turn it back on. Oh, helps if it's turned on the wall. And I've just turned it off. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, so there's our lights, as you can see. And that's pretty much it. Not much you need to do. That's it, maintenance free. They won't get in the way. I've designed it so that the cables are well out of the way of anything else. If you wanted to, as I said, you could, in theory, clip the same strip up here if you wanted a top-down light. I guess you could put them on the sides as long as you did it at the back where they don't interfere with the rollers. And any printer that's got this kind of setup, they should fit. As I said, it fits the V2, it fits the V1. It should fit the CR10 models as well. And just while I'm here, if you're interested, because free shameless plug, but this is my frame lighting kit, which I think gives a much better all-round light. And then I also do a hot end kit as well. Now, I will admit the hot end kit doesn't work as well with the Gantry kit because it kind of blocks the light from that, but it's different options for different folks depending on what you want. So anyway, thank you for buying it. Do give us a shout back if you hit any problems, and also always love feedback as well. So if you've got any suggestions or ideas, or you just like it, please let me know. Always happy to hear. Cheers.